Now, for football lovers, it's been a poignant weekend. The death on Friday of Nobby Stiles, one of the great players, an England World Cup winner, an integral part of that great team managed by Alf Ramsey, and of course a Manchester United player of great distinction. He played in the 1968 European Cup final where he had the pleasure of marking Eusebio, who he had also marked in the semi-final of the World Cup when the great Eusebio was playing for Portugal. Of course, he played for Benfica as well. And yesterday, there's news also that Bobby Charlton, a great player, one of the greatest, is suffering from dementia. And I'm joined now by John Giles to discuss the two men, particularly Nobby. Nobby, of course, was not just a colleague of John's at Manchester United. He was married to John's sister, Kay, and they were friends forever, really. John, thank you very much for joining us today.
No bother, Eamon.
It's been a sad weekend for you and your family, of course. And Nobby, I knew through you, I think you and Nobby, Kay and Anne, took me to see Dickie Rock in Dublin one night. Am I wrong?
We did that, Eamon, but you wouldn't forget. Actually, Anne and myself took you to your first dance.
Yes, you did take me to my first dance, and I couldn't get a dance.
There was a place down by the Gresham, Eamon, next door to, I don't forget, can't remember it now.
No, that's right.
But and obviously you would have come with Nobby and Kay.
To see Dickie Rock. And I know Anne loved Dickie Rock, and Kay loved Dickie Rock.
Loved them.
Yeah.
Loved them. But they were at the time obviously living in Dublin, Eamon. Well, you maybe were. When the big dance thing started, and Dickie Rock, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Was one of the big ones. And I was never keen on him. I had two left feet. I couldn't dance at all. To be quite honest. Well, I never enjoyed going to the dances.
No,
but they were okay.
I was a great dancer. I just couldn't play football. I think I'd rather have been a good footballer. But the thing about Nobby was when you went to Manchester. I think he was 78 when he died on Friday, a couple of years younger than you. You'll be celebrating your birthday, I think, this week. But when you went to Manchester, you and Nobby became very friendly. The first thing to say about Nobby was what a wonderful, delightful man he was. Nothing at all like the sort of the killer, his reputation he got later in his career. He was a great player, and we'll come to that. But he was a lovely man too, John. And his father was an undertaker.
Yeah, his father was an undertaker. Yeah, they were a great family, Eamon. There was Mr. Stiles, Mrs. Stiles, and Charlie, Nobby's brother. There's only two of them.
Yes.
And they were a real ordinary working class family. He was an undertaker. Actually, he used to do favours for people, Eamon, that he knew. Really? Cut the price down and things like that. He was a wonderful man. He was a difficult man to get on with. He wasn't easy socially. Yeah. But he was a generous, kind individual. And I was in digs, and you were in digs at that time. But when Jimmy Shields, my pal, left, I went to live with Nobby.
Yes.
And his family in Collyhurst.
Collyhurst was a real Mancunians, I think, actually. Paul Scholes is from around that way as well. And a working class area.
Brian Kidd was around there, Eamon.
Yes.
Brian Kidd came from there.
He did, yeah.
As well. Yeah, yes. It was a real local area. Nobby was an altar boy when he was a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
In St. Patrick's Church in just off the main road there.
Yes.
So they were real Manchester people, ordinary working class, Eamon.
Yes.
And that's why Nobby was brought. But I lived there for a couple of years with Mr. and Mrs. Stiles.
Yeah.
And they were great.
And when he went to Manchester United, did he get a schoolboy cap?
Oh yeah, he was an outstanding schoolboy player, Eamon.
Right.
He was in the papers a lot as a schoolboy. Manchester local, obviously a local lad who played quite a lot for. He was an outstanding schoolboy. So I knew of Nobby before he came to the club. I mean,
right.
Because he was in the papers that much.
And he was an inside forward, was he? Did he start as an inside forward, like a midfield player they'd call him today?
Oh, yeah, he was a midfield player. He was either right half or inside right in those days.
Yes.
He was a definite midfield player, yeah.
Now, his kind of, his greatness as a player, I would say, was never really quite appreciated because he got this thing of being, a hatchet man, which actually I don't think he was, but you'll tell us more about that. But what he did have, his ability to read the game and anticipate and break up attacks, his passing ability, no hanging on to the ball, win the ball, pass it, and also he was quick, and a real top class player that could have played, I would argue, John, in any side in the world.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, in football, what happens? You get labels put on people.
Yes.
He was a hatchet man. He was this, and he could certainly tackle and do his stuff. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But he had enough ability, Eamon, to be very good on the ball. Not great on the ball.
Yeah.
He wasn't a Bobby Charlton.
No.
But he did things that Bobby Charlton couldn't do.
Yeah.
He could win. He was very, very quick, Eamon.
Yes.
And very strong.
Yes.
Very determined. And he had this knack of all great ball winners and ball players that he could only see the ball when he was going for it.
Yes.
He didn't see the player. He didn't see himself getting hurt. He didn't see himself getting kicked. He just saw the ball.
Yes.
And of course he could get stuck in.
Yeah.
And he could do a few naughty things as well.
Yeah.
But who didn't? Especially in those days. But he wouldn't give the ball away.
No.
In his situation with England, where he played with Bobby and Manchester United, Bobby loved him.
Yeah. Yes.
Bobby couldn't tackle a hot dinner.
No.
Bobby was the greatest player I ever played against, but he couldn't tackle. So, but what Nobby had, and a lot of players don't have, in the position that he played when he won it,
yes.
He had the humility,
yes,
to say, that's it. I've done my job. I'll give it to Bobby,
yes.
or whoever was there, because you played with players,
yes.
where they win the ball, Eamon, and next thing they have to show off.
Yes, yeah.
This was, and it sounds a very simple thing to have humility on the pitch.
Yes.
Nobody had that humility. This is what I do. I'm not going to be a star man.
Yeah.
If I get it, I'll give it to Bobby or somebody else to play. Don Revie used to have a saying too with Norman Hunter. Norman, when you win the ball, you give it to the players that can play.
Yes, and it wasn't.
Norman Hunter didn't like it,
no.
but it was true. But Nobby had this naturally. He never tried to show off in any way. If Bobby was 6 yards away from him when he won the ball, he's done his stuff. Give it to him. Let Bobby get on and good at what he did. And Bobby obviously loved that because Bobby couldn't win the ball very well himself.
Yeah.
So it was a good combination, both for England and for Manchester United. But that was his great strength, Nobby's enthusiasm, his will to do it, his will to do the hard stuff, as they say, and then give it to the Bobby Charltons of this world.
And he used to come home in the summer, to Ireland with you. I remember him, and as I've said, and I think everyone has said, he was a lovely, gentle man. There was no sort of touch of arrogance or anything like that. He's just a real nice and kind to me. I was a bit younger, but he was always kind, as indeed were you. And then he met Kay when he was here, your sister Kay, and they fell in love and they got married. But he enjoyed coming to Dublin.
Loved it. He loved coming to Dublin. Actually, he was, when he first came, I got very friendly with Nobby straight away when he joined the club. He was on the ground staff and that.
Yes.
Got very friendly with him and said, would he like to come to Dublin? He could only come for 2 weeks because that's the only holidays he got.
Yeah.
In those days when he was on the ground staff. And he loved it straight away.
Yeah.
He loved the company. He loved the bit of fun that we had and all the various things. And I think it was a year or two afterwards when he started going out with Kay.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it, because I was living with Nobby at that particular time, and I saw these letters coming in with the stamp on from Ireland. And I thought they were for me, you see, you know. And I'd say, "There's another call for you." I said, "What's this all about?" I said, "I started going out with Kay."
Yeah.
It's amazing. And amazing when they got married, he idolised Kay.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I idolised Kay. You know, if I went over with Anne to see him, Kay, I'd love a cup of tea. Oh, say that there, love. Do the washing up, do everything, you know.
Yeah.
Because Anne used to say to me coming back, you know, isn't that be great around the house? I said, you can clear it out. We're going to be like Nobby around the house. But that's what he did. It was Kay said it. It was gospel.
And Busby,
but a simple lad in many ways. No, I don't mean that in a really good way. Just a decent, ordinary lad, kind.
Yeah.
Wouldn't see anybody doing any harm to anybody else.
No,
and
I mean
football was. He never saw himself as a star or any, as you know. Never. No. And he was a humble, good individual.
And I read a bit of Bobby Charlton's book last night, and Bobby spoke. Bobby actually said, "I loved him," and they were good, really good pals. And of course, they were in with George. Dennis Law, and they were in a very good Manchester United side, and you know the fact that Busby spotted him and knew what he was good at. Jimmy Murphy, I'm sure, played a big part in that as well. John, would you have?
Oh yeah. When he got in the U team, and you know him, you came through it.
Yeah,
you joined the club, you go through the A team, the B. Sometimes, I started with the juniors. In the Daltingham Junior, but the B team, A team.
Yeah.
Then you come across Jimmy Murphy.
Yeah.
Who was a great influence.
Yes.
And just to get back to Bobby and him on the pitch, Bobby was scared stiff of him on the pitch.
He'd bollock him. Yeah,
he'd give him a telling off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, we love Bobby.
Yeah.
But if Bobby, say, gave the ball away, he'd win again. And do it a few times. He'd say, "Bobby, come on." And Bobby would sort of jump.
Yeah.
Bobby being one of the great players, of course. But they loved each other. So Nobby came through what you came through and I came through at that particular time. Got in the U team and that.
Yeah. And the other person I think that really saw in Nobby the greatness was Alf Ramsey.
Oh, yeah. Well, Alf loved him as well.
Yeah.
Because, Nobby could do a job, Eamon, in a way that he was by far the best at it, that a team needs.
Yes.
Somebody that can win. Bobby couldn't win the ball well, but Nobby could do that. But Nobby had enough skill when he did win it to be able to use it. As I said before, he had the humility to give it to players that could do better on the ball, but he'd win it. And there wasn't many players like that. He was exceptionally quick, exceptionally strong for a little fella.
Yes.
And Ramsey loved him. I mean, Nobby could get stuck in as well. Actually, he wasn't calculated
the way you were.
Dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had to do it my own way. I couldn't do what Nobby did. But
he couldn't do what you did either. He was too nice. Go on anyway.
But when he'd win it, if Bobby wasn't there or thereabouts, he could hold the ball long enough not to give it away.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Like, I do indeed, yeah. Well, I saw him play. I actually played against him when he left United. I'm jumping a bit forward. Yeah. He went to Middlesbrough. Yeah. And I was playing for Millwall. I played against him twice. And I adored him, you know. Everyone adored him, really. Yeah. I said, "Please don't kick me, Nobby." He said, "All bets are off until the final whistle."
That wouldn't stop him either.
No.
But he wasn't a calculated killer.
No.
Like he could get stuck in. But going back to Ramsey in 1966, Nobby had a very, very bad tackle around the I don't know whether it was in the early rounds or not, or might have been the quarterfinals on a French guy, and he really laid him out.
Oh, yes. And it was the first game, actually. It was the first game of the 66 World Cup, John. They played France. Yeah, and he did a guy. But I think it might have been, because he couldn't see very well, could he?
No.
Blind Pew, they used to call him.
I wouldn't use it as an excuse for him getting stuck. He knew what he was doing, getting stuck in, Eamon, all right. But anyway, he clattered this guy, and there was murders in the paper that he shouldn't play for England again.
Yes.
Murders. And it went to the selection committee, I believe, called Ramsey in, said, "He want that guy out of the team.
Yeah.
He's not fit to play for England." And Ramsey said, "If he goes, I go."
Right. And that's,
Ramsey loved him because of what he could do for the players around him.
Yes.
Whether it be Alan Ball and Bobby Charlton in particular.
Yeah.
He was the one that could do the rough stuff and be good enough to set it going.
Yeah, and that
Ramsey loved him. Yeah, actually, Ramsey said we've got five world-class players in the team, and one of them is Nobby Stiles.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and Ramsey was a great judge, completely vindicated when England did win the World Cup, and I was one of many people who didn't favour his functional, practical, pragmatic style of play. It was a 4-3-3, and we all wanted Egypt at the time, people, to be doing other things, playing more positively. Oh my God!
But the funny thing about that, Eamon, in the first two matches, he did play wingers.
Yeah, that's right. Terry Payne was one of them, wasn't he?
Terry Payne was one. But they had a few wingers. They had Peter Thompson, they had Terry Payne, Ian Callaghan. A few of them. Everybody had wingers at that. But England had about four of them.
Yeah.
And I think he tried two of them, or maybe four of them, in the first two matches, and didn't work.
No.
It wasn't working.
And the other player who he left out was Jimmy Greaves, wasn't it?
But that was later on.
Yeah.
That was a good bit later on, where they weren't scoring. Jimmy wasn't scoring.
Right.
Jimmy got an injury apparently as well. That's what they say. But then he brought Alan Ball into the team and Martin Peters.
Yes.
And left the wingers out.
Yes.
At that particular time.
Now, for winning the World Cup, they got £1,000. It's ridiculous. £1,000. These men made history for English football and, created this moment in English popular culture that is unforgettable for English people, and rightly so. I was at the final too, and I was at the semi-final, in fact. I went to both. But they got £1,000 for it. And the thing I want to talk about for now is there's a terrible sadness about Nobby's death and Bobby's dementia. But in the case of Alf Ramsey died in a nursing home.
Yes.
He was alone. He was poor. And the person who was paying the bills in the care home that Alf Ramsey died in was Bobby Robson. It's extraordinary that Ramsey never got any material reward for what he did for England in that moment, and died in obscurity, anonymity, with somebody who admired him, as Robson had played for him, of course, at Ipswich, and paid his bills. Nobby, who gave so much, and those pictures at the weekend of him skipping around with his socks around his ankles and his gap in his teeth from Wembley, that was a moment, I think, when the British people, English people particularly, embraced Nobby, wasn't it? It was a moment that was so unexpected, but you could see how small he was, how thin his legs were, and how, he was like every man, gap in his tooth, kind of blind, and he did all this fantastic stuff. It's an amazing idea. If you put it in a book, no one would believe you, would they?
No, well, nobody would. No, they'd say it was a fairy tale.
Yeah,
and you're quite right, Eamon. At that particular time, I think the point you're making is how poorly these particular people were felt. Actually, at the time, Eamon, you talk about the £1,000 bonus. That was for the players that played. Right?
Yeah.
Actually, there was a lot of lads didn't play, and I know for a fact that they shared the bonus between them with the lads who didn't play as well.
Right. So they
and
didn't
one of the
even get
big
the
things, apparently at the time, one of the big, huge things at the time, the Football Association made a lot of money. They had an option to put some of the money into a trust for the players.
Yes.
Or pay the tax.
Yes.
And they paid the tax.
Right. Yeah.
That's the way footballers were treated, as we know. And times have changed now, thank God. With Alf Ramsey, as you say, and a lot of great other managers, Stan Cullis, and a lot finished in poverty-stricken. But the players, in particular, at that from 1966, which was a long time ago, but was a huge huge thing for England, as we know, winning the World Cup.
Yes.
And I'll leave you now to continue.
No, just to ask you about Nobby's illness and how long he's had to live with this terrible thing, this dementia. How long had he lived with it, John?
I'd say for about 15 years.
Yeah.
But very, very poorly the last 5 years.
Yes.
He was totally out of it for the last 5 years.
Yes.
I can't go and see him every day and that, but he was. I went to see him for his birthday last year, which was May.
Yes.
And you could tell. Kay said, well, she could tell. He could feel a sense of people around him.
Yes.
You know, a bit of a comfort.
Yes.
But he couldn't talk to anybody.
And as it became known that he was in a home and sick, very sick, Manchester United, the English FA, the Professional Footballers Association, very, very little help or interest.
Well, that would be true. I think there was I've got to be very careful here because this is very confidential.
I don't want you. I don't want you to go where you don't want. We've talked about this.
I don't want to be trying to.
What I want people to understand is the gap between the glory and what these men gave, what they gave, and what they sacrificed and gave, and how little they got in return.
Well, that's a fact, Eamon, and it's very, very sad. I'd have to say now, just in my own way, that there was very little response from the FA. I think very little response from Manchester United, and a small response from the PFA.
Yeah, and
so it's sad. It's sad, Eamon, as you're quite rightly saying. I know exactly what you're saying, and the listeners will know that lads of Nobby's generation and what he did was certainly not treated in a way that they should have been treated.
And he had to come to a decision to sell his European Cup winners' medal and his World Cup winners' medal.
Yes.
And what I find unbelievable is Manchester United bought those medals and put them in the museum, the Manchester United Museum. I mean, that's kind of sick. Could they not have just looked after?
I know at the time, Eamon, there was negotiations for those medals.
Yes,
and somebody, a spokesman for Manchester United, said recently when they were talking about Nobby, that we took his medals from his football. They didn't say they negotiated for the football, and they said it in a way as if they gave Nobby the money.
Yes.
They didn't give Nobby.
No.
They got the medals on a commercial basis, and they paid the commercial price.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact, to put in the museum.
Yeah.
There was no extra. There's no extra. In other words, there were other people bidding for Nobby's medals.
He was also treated badly by Manchester United, John, when he left the club, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, they weren't generous, Eamon.
No.
Anyway,
and
he went to Middlesbrough. Yeah. He went to Middlesbrough after whatever it was, 10, 12 years. Nobby loved Manchester United, as you know, from the time he was a kid.
Yeah.
And when he was finished, well, he was getting on. He went to Middlesbrough for, I think, 25 grand. Right. But I know for a fact he got nothing from that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he wasn't treated. He was treated poorly, like a lot of players. Eamon, like we're highlighting Nobby, but a lot of players from that particular time, have been badly treated. The FA haven't treated him well. I said the Manchester United, I don't think, treated him well, and the PFA definitely haven't treated him well, along with others.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's just to put in context. First of all, that people who love football and listen to and watch it on television to know about the culture that you great players grew up in, and how cruel it could be for you. You were luckier than most, but for Nobby, for Alf Ramsey, and for so many others, John, it was a brutal game, and the glorious pictures that we saw at the weekend of Nobby, they in a way conceal the grim reality of everyday life for people who were heroes, genuine heroes.
Yes. Oh, definitely so, and particularly Nobby, who took very ill.
Yes.
In these last years was dreadful.
Yes.
And obviously he had the family and that around him. But for the lads generally, or footballers generally at that time, it obviously it's changed a lot.
Yes.
In our day there was a maximum wage. You signed a contract at 17. You signed it for life. But what you'll find with footballers, you were a player yourself.
Yeah.
When you talk about Nobby would have paid money to play for Manchester United.
Yes, I know.
Yes. I would have paid money to play for Manchester United. Like money was never the thing. Unfortunately, now luckily enough today, the lads are earning enough money, Eamon, that they'll be secure for the rest of their life.
Yeah, for one thing, when people start talking about what players are earning today, in my company, or when someone asks me, I never for one moment begrudge them a single penny, although many of them are probably paid way over the odds. Every penny they get, it makes up for all you guys in particular who got nothing like you deserved. And of course, they complain about players driving Rolls Royces or whatever they're driving these days. Let them drive them. They're earning the bloody money. Where would where would the game be without players?
Well, that's the point, Damon. I mean, where would the game have been in our day without players?
Yeah,
we're cruelly treated in a situation that was. I never met a player that was properly treated, Damon, when they came to the end of their days.
No,
never met one. We all had a story.
Yeah.
Now it's terrific. And good luck. And I'm the same as you. I'd rather see the players earn too much than too little.
Yeah.
I think it's gone a bit too much at times in certain situations. There's no doubt about that. But I'd rather see them have what they're having now. I hope they appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big thing, because there were changes. The PFA in my day, the Professional Football Association, were skint.
Yeah.
They had no money. Now they're a wealthy organisation.
Yes.
And in my opinion, they're not using the money as well as they should do for all players.
They're not.
Because all players, we're all dying off. I mean, the young players of today playing football should not, and I don't think will not suffer financially when they finish playing football. The lads who did the stuff, like the likes of Nobby, Bobby Charlton, and the vast majority of the players that I know from my time did not finish financially secure.
No.
They had to make a living. And some of them have had Alzheimer's, some of them have different things, bad operations and all the various things. I know a bit about this. And they haven't been looked after as well as they should have been, from the clubs that they played for, from the FA, and particularly from the Professional Football Association. And it's very, very sad.
Just a couple of things, John. Bobby, I know you were a great admirer of Bobby's, are a great admirer of Bobby's, thought he was the greatest player ever. It's really sad that to hear that news yesterday, his wife Norma approved the Daily Telegraph, I think it was, who broke the story. When you see what a wonderful athlete and gifted man he was, and this terrible disease, dementia, comes to strike him down, it's awfully sad.
Yeah, it's very sad. I must say, it's very sad for any individual or family.
Yes, of course it is. Yes,
and I know you know that.
Yes,
it's very, very sad.
Yeah.
I mean, Bobby is a very well-known character because of what he was. I mean, I always describe Bobby in a plain sense. He was the best player I ever played with, and he's the best player I ever played against.
Yes,
and he was, and again, like most of the great players, a very humble man.
Yes,
very, very family-orientated man.
Yes.
It was just a wonderful, wonderful lad. I know he's had it for a while. I know his wife has come out now to say it publicly, but I've heard for a while that he hasn't been great. I mean, as we know.
Now,
it's a very, very sad situation.
One other thing, John. We were talking yesterday, and I said to you, as many people have noted, over recent times, actually, not just this weekend, that 5 of the 11 players that played for England in that game against West Germany, which won them the World Cup, have had dementia or Alzheimer's, become victims of those terrible diseases. You were saying to me that you didn't think, I thought Jack Charlton had dementia, but you said to me you're not so sure that Jack actually had dementia, but it is being said for the record that he's one of the 5.
Yeah. Well,
I think you dispute that, do you?
Well, there are different forms of dementia, Eamon. I'm not an expert on it, but he wouldn't have had the dementia that we would know dementia to be.
Yes.
Right. Because when Jack was a young man and his prime, he was terrible with names, Eamon. He was terrible with his memory. You know what I mean?
That's why I called Liam Brady Ian Brady, the Moors murderer.
And many other people.
Yeah.
You know, but it's only about 3 years ago. I was Eddie Gray was having a party, and I was there. There was a few of the oldies lads there, and Jack was there. This is only about 3 years ago, and he came over to me and he said, "Look, John, before we start," he says, "I have to tell you, my memory's very bad. It's not as good as it used to be." And I said, "It was never good anyway, Jack." But he said, "I'm just warning you, it's not good. My memory's not good." Now, with ordinary dementia, as I know it, Eamon, when you have dementia, Jack wouldn't be able to say that to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he wouldn't know his memory was bad.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. Obviously, he wasn't good. I mean, he was old at the end, Jack, but he didn't suffer with the dementia that we know as dementia. Yeah. Definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely not. But he did suffer in the end. I mean, he was obviously from old age, and I think his memory went. Anyway, you know, but Nobby had it from like 15 years ago.
Yes.
And a lot of people, and it gets worse and worse and worse till they're actually laid out. You know, laid out and gone. Jack never suffered like that.
No, it's been
I'm not saying it was great.
A long and hard struggle for Kay and John, his son, and the family, and for you, of course, to see all of this. And on behalf, I'm sure, of everyone listening to this podcast, I offer my own condolences and the condolences of every football lover to you, to Kay, and all of Nobby's family. I know his son John was a very good player, played for Rovers, I think, and thank God he won't suffer anymore. He was a great man on the field and a wonderful, wonderful man off the field with a great sense of humour. A typical Mancunian, as you said, John, and they are lovely people. So I hope you accept, on everyone's behalf, our deepest condolences, and we're very grateful to you today for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks very much, Eamon. That's very good, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's all we have time for. We'll talk to you soon.